Hey, everybody.
Well, first of all, I'm so excited to have you here with us because, even when we saw our alumni share our stories, for someone like yourself who's been in the public eye, who's also faced scrutiny and just different things throughout your struggle, it has to be challenging sometimes to get out there and be so transparent. So we are excited that you are willing to do that today. So tell me what it's been like to be able to share your story or to even to get in front of young people. I've heard you've gone to the high schools, like you are really on a mission to educate. So tell me what that has been like for you.
It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor. Nothing is more rewarding and spiritually filling than giving back the second chance at a life worth living that's been given to me. There's no way I've survived what I've gone through, the highs and the lows, to not share that experience. I think I'm here to do that. I show my scars so others can heal.
No, I think that's really candid of you to be able to do that. Take me back, because I think when people think of you as a young person, you're on this hit 90s show, and it seems like the world is at your fingertips,
Very true.
How old were you, first of all, when you started on the show?
I was 10 years old when I started on Baywatch. I had started acting at 6, so I had already done a ton of commercials and TV shows and stuff like that, but I got Baywatch at 10.
Wow. So at 10 years old, it feels like the world is in front of you. You've been given this great opportunity to star in this show, but yet, in the midst of that, there was something going on.
Dun, dun, dun.
So tell me about, in the midst of everything that you were going through, how did you get to the point of drinking, or even that first drink at 12?
Well, me personally, I had always had this thirst, this hunger, and this craving that somewhere outside of me there was an answer and a solution to become really one of the in crowd or the enlightened folks that seem to be having fun and enjoying life and doing well. And I was a sugar addict. Anything I could get my hands into that was that I could feel, I liked, and I heard you speaking with the other people about, what parents can do and can't do. And, I think for kids really and parents, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. I had a really overprotective mother, don't do that. You're really sensitive to sugar and medication. You'll probably die if you ever do anything, She instilled the fear of God in me, but I thought that they were tricking me, that really there was an answer in alcohol and cigarettes and weed, and there was something in there for me. So I was chomping at the bit to get my hands on that. All the other celebrities were doing it. All the other stars were going out and drinking, and I was only 10, 11. I wanted to be involved in that,
Wow. So even at that young age, take me back to that first memory. Do you still remember it? I know it's been some time, but do you remember that first experience that you had and what you were thinking at that time?
That's a common question, and a lot of people do remember it, but I feel like my eyes were always so set on what I needed rather than what I was doing, what I wanted rather than what I had, which is one of the cores of the issue. I don't even remember the first drink, I can remember causing a lot of problems very early, ruining birthday parties and,
Wow, so you would be at birthday parties as a teenager?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. My friend's birthday party, 13 years old, and I'm drunk, naked, crashing the entertainment system, trying to climb the walls or something. That was out of hand.
Wow. So when you're doing that, and you're also on the set of the show at the time, were people thinking anything? Was there an alarm raised? Or because you were an actor, people just kind of overlooked it? What were you facing at that time?
Well, it was kind of a setup for failure because, I would work intensely in the summer times, and the winter would be kind of off and on. So I would kind of get myself in a lot of trouble over the winter and drink and party and steal my own money and cause problems, and then pretty much go to rehab, get my act together for a month or two, and then come back to the set and do real good for 3 months and, get the big payday, and then it was off to the races all over again. Of course, swearing up and down that I wouldn't do it again, and believing that I wouldn't do it again even.
And so what was the reaction of, David Hasselhoff or the people who were around you, looking at you as this young child, 10, 12, 13, on the show, knowing that you're going to rehab and things like that? Did anybody ever sit down and talk with you, or was it just kind of the silent secret in a way?
We kept it kind of hush-hush, I even hid it most of the stuff from my mom. But there was an incident where actually the day I quit the show, I pretty much kept it hidden until about 18 years old, 17 years old actually, and I couldn't remember my lines. I was so embarrassed and so insecure, hadn't slept in a couple days, and I remember David Hasselhoff looked me in the eyes, this is my childhood idol, this is Knight Rider, this is,
Good to be his son had to be an experience in of itself.
He's like, Jeremy, are you smoking pot or something? And, getting called out like that in front of everybody, and truth be told, I had been up for 5 days smoking crystal methamphetamine, and I was like, I remember thinking, man, if you only knew how deep of shit I am in, if you only knew the truth. I wish I could tell you, but it's a lot worse than pot, And rather than cave and get honest and break down and get help, I said, screw you, with my middle finger in the air, and I walked off the show and I quit,
Wow.
And that was one of many multi-million-dollar opportunities I walked away from and ruined.
Was that really hard for you in that moment? I mean, when you look back, was it just the fear of disappointing your idol? Or was it the fear that people would look at you differently knowing that you had a problem? What was it that made you not want to say it in that moment when you could have gotten help?
Well, I heard you talking about the isolation with some of our other speakers, and it's really the being convinced that no one will really understand, that they won't get it, and feeling like a leper. It's like it's way too bad to tell anybody because you're literally on death's door. You're literally risking your life day in, day out, and you just can't tell anybody. It's too dark. It's too naughty. It's too wrong. It's too disgusting. The process of doing the drugs and the seedy places, and it's just like, wow, like this is horrible stuff I'm doing, and I could never tell anybody that. So that's one of the biggest issues I feel like is being terminally unique, believing that nobody will get it and nobody understands, and that really cuts you off and can kill you. So the answer to that is connection.
Yes, connection. I could imagine that's a big deal.
Connection and honesty will save your life.
I wonder, since it's been years past, have you ever had a chance to sit down and talk with David Hasselhoff about that moment and what you're thinking? I'm curious if you guys have ever had that kind of moment together since then.
Yeah. I've actually been able to mend all those relationships and still talk to him to this day. And I actually did a wedding reception at his house a few years ago, and we're still close and in touch. So luckily he understands and has had his own struggles. So we've actually kind of been buddies in that way. So what I thought would be, the nastiest thing I could never tell anybody actually turned out to be an opportunity for a deeper connection and fellowship with him, which is usually the truth in this recovery life. The truth really can't set you free.
So it's like you got to connect with your dad.
Even deeper, yeah.
Even deeper. That's really awesome. Sometimes I wonder, like, when you said, like, you're in the throes of that addiction and your life is spiraling, is it like, how would you describe it? Do you feel like it was an out-of-body experience that you were experiencing? Like, I can't believe, like I said, you're thinking, I'm in these seedy places, I'm doing things I never imagined that I would do. How are you in that moment, like, as you look back on that? Is it like almost like you're looking down on someone else's life, like, this can't be me?
One of the most kind of looming and strange memories I have is, I would, every couple months, maybe 2 months, 6 months, I would kind of catch myself out of the corner of my eye in the mirror, and I'd go, oh my gosh, you're still doing it? Like,
Wow.
you said you were going to stop. Like, wait, like, what's the date even? Oh my gosh, it's been 3 months. Okay, tomorrow for sure. And then I would flash forward to 2 months, 6 months, 3 months, whatever it was, and be like, like, this is the first time I've remembered I said I was going to stop 3 months ago.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, it's really bad now. I'm even 10 pounds lighter, blah, 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 blah. I've lost this, I've lost that. I've gotten deeper. Okay, for sure, going to stop now. Like, God, tomorrow, fresh start. And I wouldn't remember again for a long, long time. It's a nasty, nasty disease.
And that's what I think we really need to get the message out about too. And I think one of our panelists, I think it was Morgan who actually said this, is that if people would realize that this wasn't a choice for you, this is a disease. Yeah. And I wonder, was there ever a point where you realized, I assume when you were going through treatment and trying to get better, that you realized that this was a disease? What was that like for you to realize that you weren't like a leper? Right. As you said, that you felt that way, but this was something that many people are dealing with, and that there is something biological connected to it in terms of it being a disease.
Yeah. Well, it was incredibly empowering, really, because I realized that it could be wielded in my favor, that it was a double-edged sword, that on my own and under a facade or without wisdom and deepening my spiritual life and continuing to sharpen my mind and learn and more about it and help others, without that I was screwed to a fate, really, a bleak fate. But armed with some spirituality, armed with some fellowship, armed with a story to tell, that I could actually be my best self ever.
Wow.
So yeah, it was really empowering.
Mm-hmm. And so when you're talking to young people, as you just have experiences and you've been going into the schools, and we said is sharing your story, what do you say to them? What's that candid conversation? And I'm curious if you ever had a point where you're looking at a young kid in the face and you're thinking, something's wrong. I know it. Mm-hmm. How have you faced and dealt with that kind of situation? And what do you usually say to them when you have that opportunity?
I usually try to listen. I just try to listen, and I ask God to allow them to see the light in me, the light of recovery, the light of sobriety, the light of purpose and passion. All my homies and my friends and my family life that's been healed, and the job opportunities and the trips, fun, but like all this good stuff that I have in my life now, I just try to let that shine out and hope that maybe they can see that and want a little piece of it, because that question you asked earlier, that what would you if you could know something before you drank and used, and if I had known then the type of passion, the type of purpose, and the type of spiritual experiences that I would have now, would have been very, very helpful, So I try to listen and of course, find that connection, So the disease, right, we talked about, it's actually called the warrior gene. Science calls it the warrior gene.
Okay.
It's in at least 10% of the world's population. Mm-hmm. It's in the amygdala. It's fed by a protein called CREB. And some of the best fighter pilots, SWAT officers, special forces, NASCAR drivers, jet fighter pilots, they all have this gene. And they feed it in other ways. So if you happen to stumble upon drugs and alcohol before you stumble on community or extreme sports or something that you're really good at and passionate about, then this is going to be the thing that's going to trigger that cascade of dopamine. And in normal people, that cascade of dopamine rushes and stops. Like, whoa, that was amazing, and then it dwindles away. But in this diseased brain, that protein, that CREB cycle keeps going, and the dopamine says, you need to do that again to survive. You need to do that again to survive. That's why it puts the alcoholic and the drug addict truly in a survival situation where they're in their most basic part of their brain, their most reptilian, do that again, no love, no compassion, no purpose. Just do this again to survive. You have to. It's like trying to stop yourself from breathing. It's just going to happen. You can't argue with your brain's biology, right? So you really do become a creature, a base creature. And that is a really, really gnarly thing. So when I'm talking to somebody, what I'm hoping is what happens when a mother holds its baby. The heartbeats sink. The pupils dilate at the same pace. And when you come into true community and you become on the same wavelength with them, that diseased brain, that mutation of the brain settles down, and they forget, I have to do that again to survive, because they're fed in that moment by some love and some companionship. And if they can keep that quiet long enough, might just say, hey, okay, maybe I can just keep doing this one more day.
Right.
So that's what I hope for every time I'm talking to somebody.
That's awesome. And I just
it's
think
a real thing.
I know, just having that connection. And I think people would be surprised, if we were looking at some of the local stats of how many kids are drinking or have binge drinked or tried drugs. Do you find when you're in the schools that people would be surprised at the number of kids who are probably experimenting or getting into that?
I was blown away, really. The types of questions that were being asked. I was like, oh my gosh, really? We're that low on the, knowledge scale? Like, where are these kids getting these drugs from? I'm like, are you serious? Like, everyone's grandma has it, or, you know what I mean, or uncle or cousin, and it's so easy. You go on the internet, it's like everywhere. Like, wow, we really need to raise the bar and open some eyes on how serious it is and how, I think everyone's going to try it. I mean, yeah, there's 10% that are total addicts, right? There's 10% maybe that are just, I'm really never doing drugs. Like, God bless them. Awesome. But, there's this big range in between that could easily fall into the 10, or might just use and drink with immunity and have fun and take it or leave it. And that's really cool. But we have to kind of educate the whole bunch so that 10% knows there really is a solution, and there really are people who are recovering. There really is answers. There really is a way out, and the way out will actually make you more stoked than the other 90% of the people, but don't tell them.
No, that's pretty cool, because I think it's just so important that parents have a wake-up call, because they're really shocked, because people probably be surprised when I hear you were doing, all types of drugs. Like, how are you getting access to this? Like, how do you even know where to go?
I mean, it just makes it more fun to try, Like, human beings are amazing manifestors. People that put their minds to making billions of dollars, millions of dollars, having mansions, they do it. When I put my mind to being on the cover of fitness magazines and having this buff body, I did it because I really wanted it. So when your brain is locked on getting a head change, you're going to manifest it. You're going to just, like attracts like, you're going to start attracting bad people into your life just randomly on the street. It's just going to be spiritual battle. You want yucky, you'll find plenty of yucky out there.
Wow, it's that easy.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So when you think about back over your life, I think sometimes you've got a hard rap sometimes in the media, as you've gone through things. What is that like, having to deal with this publicly? They're like, oh, Jeremy Jackson did this, or, having to deal with the ramifications of some of the things that have happened, but realizing that that's part of your disease and you're striving for better, and you're at a good point now. How has that been for you?
Well, it's luckily, between my mom, my church, my buddies, I have enough amazing people around me who really know me. So I'm like, you know what? If they think one thing, so be it. The people that know me and love me the best know the truth. I know the truth. But it's also been a worthwhile task to jump through the hoops, do the work, have the patience to let that dust settle and clear the wreckage of my past, because these criminal charges are being dropped in 3 months. So I actually have an email into Joe Rogan hopefully I can go on his show because I think he's a huge platform to really tell the truth.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Dr. Phil wanted to talk to me, yada, yada, yada. I've been putting it off. It's been almost 3 years of digging in the trenches, staying low in the center of the pack, working in rehabs, taking small jobs, not letting myself get too far ahead of myself or try to get back into Hollywood or anything like that. And I think the what's the word I'm looking for? The victory's coming. You know what I mean? The truth is coming out soon, and it's been a real learning process and an educational process to kind of be okay with it for now.
Do you see yourself writing a book or any kind of thing like that in terms of sharing your story?
Yeah, that's something I would love to do, and hopefully will happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things as we wrap up with you, and I want you to continue to sit on our panel, that I think that you're a testament that this disease can have highs and lows, but the person that perseveres to the end can make it. And so what would you say to someone out there, even a young person who finds themselves in the throes of alcohol and realizing it's getting out of control, that there is hope through your story? What would be your final words of that?
I'd say, just jump on our team for a little while, try it out. If your life doesn't get 100 times better, you can go back to whatever you were doing. But try it our way for a minute,
And your life is 100 times better?
Yeah.
You're living your best life?
And I'm living my best life.
That's my favorite song. By the way, I love it.
I know, it's a great song. I had it on my Instagram the other day, and somebody got me in trouble because the N-word was in there. I'm like, I'm trying to live my best life here. Excuse me. And I got an army of guys behind me, I met this guy at a party. He was living in his truck, and he was on meth, and he had been clean and sober for a year. He's a young guy, 20 years old, and he was miserable. He had been clean and sober, and he had built a handyman business, and he was doing well, and he kind of strayed and ended up getting back into drugs and being in jail more than out of jail for a year. And I said, meet me on Tuesday night. I want you to meet some of my friends. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to get a free place to stay. You're going to get food. You're going to get a job. And you're going to have a line of guys giving you their number, dying to help you. Because these are guys whose lives have been restored and who know no greater joy than to see somebody else get it. And he actually came. Well, here's why he came. That night when he went to his truck, somebody broke in his car, stole the rest of his money and the rest of his drugs. So he had no more drugs to get high. I call that God. So so he called me. I've got no money and no drugs. I guess I'm going to try that thing you told me about. And exactly what I told him would happen, happened.
Wow.
And it's really for anybody that wants it,
Well, Jeremy, I think you're just a testament that you just keep going, and that it's so such a blessing to have you here, sharing your story, keep doing what you're doing, going out into the schools, educating people. And we hope that as people are watching this on live stream, that they are really impacted and know that this doesn't have to be the end of your story.
Nope.
And there is life ahead, and you can still live your best life.
Absolutely.
And that parents would be mindful that this can happen to their child.
Yeah, for parents, I would definitely, if you're a parent, I would get into some Al-Anon, even just reading the Al-Anon book or reading an Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous book for a parent so that they can watch out for those signs. If you know the life of a true addict, you might be able to nudge them in the right direction, or you might be able to see the scale sliding. Would be very helpful because it's going to be hard to get your kid to read that. You know what I mean? They don't know if they're a real one yet, but, if drinking and using is working out for you, cool. If it's not and you want to get better, there's definitely a way. There's definitely a solution. Hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on Facebook, or just reach out to somebody in your neighborhood or a family member that's clean and sober and ask them how to do it, because there is a solution. You're never too far down the scale, and it's never too early to start.
Love that.
But It's not the case.
It is not a magic pill, and that's really good for, I think, parents to realize. Because Jeremy, when you even think of your own circumstance, you've gone to treatment a couple times, so you've been down that. So what would you say to people who think that, and if grab the mic there, who think that there is like a magic pill to this?
Well, you don't know until you know. So a little bit of treatment helps, even if you go back, so you just keep coming back, and you hope that seed that's planted starts to sprout a little bit and kind of mess up your partying.
So it's kind of like continuing to plant that seed in there, even if the person does relapse. And Dr. Little, so you think that thought process that I'm going to be different. Did you ever think that, Jeremy? Did you ever think that in yourself, that you could handle this and that you were going to be different? Was that something that you dealt with?
Of course. That's the thing that is synonymous with all alcoholics and addicts. I can go in a room full of alcoholics and say, has anybody ever said, I won't end up in jail? Anybody ever said, I won't? Every time. We always think it won't be us.
Wow. I think that's powerful, because I think a lot of people think it won't be them. So why is it, and maybe one of the doctors can explain this, and Jeremy, I think one of the things was interesting, you said you had an overprotective mother, so she was trying to do all of those things. So what do you think was missing? What do you think was the missing part?
Oh, yeah, she was running interference 24/7, screaming my name outside, Jeremy, where are you? And I'm like hiding in an apartment, smoking some lady's roaches I found in her patio.
Wow.
I jumped the gate to, I come from the school of, me personally, I believe, I'm a true addict through and through, that I have that crazy disease that just doesn't make sense. And not everybody's going to have that. So normal solutions, normal answers, or logical explanations don't apply to me. So I guess one of the things that might have helped is an open conversation about extremes, So you don't want to think your kid's smoking pot, but you definitely don't want to think your kid's taking their friends' OxyContins, Roxy. You definitely don't want to think that your kid is smoking prescription medication off tinfoil with a straw. You definitely don't believe that they're injecting this prescription medication into your arm. You would never want to picture that. But if you get that kind of stuff out in the open, like, holy crap, you got a torch and a glass pipe, and you know what I mean? Like, because it's so raw and bad. So if these kind of topics, maybe Drugs, Inc., or some harsh TV shows and stuff like that, if it's open and then you're doing it, you're like, oh my gosh, that ice kind of already got broken. It's not like jumping from, yeah, Mom, I got drunk at a party and I think I might be an alcoholic, to, yeah, Mom, I'm smoking meth and staying up for 5 days. Like, that's really bad. So if there was more comfort there, and like I said before, for a parent to get really involved in a Al-Anon program, or taking the steps from an Al-Anon program. Russell Brand's really good, and really knowing how an addict works, because they're probably not going to stop until they're done. But if you can see the signs, and I had a very influential mom. I really loved my mom, and that always tugged on my heartstrings. So having a parent that really never was going to give up on me bothered me. So it made it kind of easier to go back. But having a really educated parent that knows the extremes and has already talked about it and is never going to give up on me, but also isn't going to rationalize, justify, or make it easier on me by giving him money, bailing him out, doing all these kind of things that just help it. So you got to hurt in ways, and you got to help in ways. You got to hurt in the right ways and help in the right ways. Mm-hmm. And let him know you're never going to give up on him, no matter how nasty it is, but you're not going to help him to continue to make mistakes. There's a lot of education that has to go on for a parent, isn't there?
Yeah, I think we have to just start that.
The alcoholic kid it's so easy to suck them into a codependency cycle and be terrible, So
you got to have that.
It's a big job for a parent, a huge job. And if you really love your kid, if you're really worried about them, you basically got to take like a mini college course on it. You got to get real smart real quick. Because they could die. And we know the stats on how many kids in Orange County are dying of overdoses. It's like something crazy, isn't it? How many? 500 a year.
500
it's
a year
kind of a big
from
deal
overdoses.
in Orange County.
Wow. So that
Yeah,
came from
that's-
our audience. So the statistics can be staggering when you really look at them. And so next question from our audience. Say you have a child who you think just smokes and drinks every once in a while, and they're not sure if this is just a typical teenager. How do you determine typical versus needing help? And I don't know if, Jeremy, if you have some thoughts on that.
You know, I mean, we got the crazy child who's in a tailspin, who's messing up their life, whose grades are going down the tubes, performance, athletic performance, who's coming home late. You can pee test that kid, you can breathalyze that kid. You can help them see that they can no longer keep their word, that even though they promised they wouldn't do it anymore, they did, and again and again and again, and try to shine a light to that kid. Is this the type of person you want to be, that cannot keep their word, that cannot show up on time, that is lying to themselves? Did you believe you weren't going to do it again, and you did you? Okay, there's a problem, right? And then if you got a kid that's just drinking and smoking, I mean, maybe that's just, maybe that's just a paradigm shift, a life choice. Do you want to be fat, stinky, smoking loser, or what I mean? Or you want to be a stud? You want to be a ripped, spiritual, awesome leader? Because I've never seen anybody give a speech from a podium about how they built an amazing business, or how they took over the world, or how they empowered millions. Because thanks to drugs and cigarettes and booze. If it wasn't for cigarettes and booze, I'd never be an Olympic gold medalist. Nobody ever said that. So some people do have a choice, and that's kind of just what kind of person do you really want to be? Because it's not going to help. Bottom line.
Mm-hmm. You're right. So if you want to be the person that you want to be, you have to take that step.
Yeah.
Looking for those signs, and like you said, even if they're just doing it casually, you need to pay attention to that.
Yeah, and just to encourage them to be, the best version of themselves. Some people are blessed with the choice to take it or leave it, but even for a non-alcoholic or for a non-addict, the choice to leave it is always going to lead to bigger, better things.
Wow, good information there. That was powerful. Okay, Jeremy, we're gonna end up with you as a final thought.
No pressure.
And no pressure, but you have given us so many golden nuggets here today to take away, and it's been an awesome experience to have you here. So what is your final thought?
Well, kind of to touch back on the question you asked about, not having anybody in your family that had the gene. The way it was explained to me by Dr. Drew Pinsky when I spent some quality time with him, that we talked about a little bit before about that warrior gene, that survival gene, that gene is actually here on purpose to make sure that no civilizations go completely extinct. So at least 10% of a population, where you're talking about a small indigenous tribe in the Amazon, or you're talking about some nomads out in the desert, that at least 10% of them will have this gene, because they will be the craziest mofos. They will do whatever it takes to survive. They will rush into battle. They won't take it lying down, and they will win. So if you are someone that has an extreme problem with drugs and or alcohol, you have this superhero gene that once you address it, and once you get it in check, you have abilities that not everybody else has. Time slows down in the eye of the hurricane. You become very acute, your sense of smell, your sense of hearing in extreme situations. So you're going to kill it in business. You're going to kill it in sports. You're going to have some extra juju when you need it. And you can access that by jumping on the winning team. And if you're not one of those people, and you just having a problem with alcohol, or you're a parent that's kid is being a little wild, do everything you would do for the extreme alcoholic too. Just go through the whole rigmarole anyway. Because this is the only disease that tells you don't have a disease. It kills more people than anything else. If your kid had cancer, you would do everything and anything. You would spend your last dollar to make sure they don't die from it. You would put your job on hold. You would do whatever it took to make sure that they survived. You got to do the same thing when it comes to drugs and alcohol, especially if it's getting nasty. Because all the stuff that we do, the guys that are going to die without it, I'm one of those that will die without solution. All the stuff that we do will activate anybody's life, even if you're not a real alcoholic, it'll still set your life on fire and open your eyes, open your heart, and open your mind. So it's a win-win.
I love that. And to leave on that note, just you can be a superhero.
Totally
I
can.
love that.
Yeah.
So just thinking about that, and we want to thank our live streaming audience for joining us and all of our panelists.